Alright, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to continue with our styling, right? And we are going to style the index page of our blogify, basically. And we are going to make a few changes to what we had earlier. There was one thing which was a little wrong, and one change that we had made in the last video was actually doing something that we do not want. So we'll be changing the way how that's happening, right? Alright. So now I'm going to go to my blogify. This is what we had, and first of all, let me tell you that you will have more posts than this, of course, and I have not deleted the posts. The reason why I'm getting only 3 out of the 6 is I'll tell you in just a moment, because we're going to see quite a few changes in this video. Right, so the first thing is that if we inspect this, right, this is an error that I made, and I didn't notice until just today, right? So here I see that my head does not have anything, right, and everything that I've written goes inside the body. So this was actually really weird, and it took me a little time to actually figure out why this was happening. And then what I figured out was that inside our header.ejs, we need to have an exclamation mark here, right? So as soon as I do this and I refresh, now if I inspect, you can see I have my head inside which everything is there. So now this syntax is as it should be, exactly right. All right, great. So that's good and great. So now the next change that we want to see. I mean, this is not a fix. This is just something that I'm going to tell you, that you might have noticed that I'm running this on localhost, right? I'm not running this on the Gurm URL. And what you might have noticed when I changed this was that I'm doing everything in VS Code. So that's basically because I've decided to shift for the rest of the course my particular development to my local development environment, right? You can choose to continue with Gurm and you will not have to do anything different from what I'm doing here, except the URL up here will be different, right? Everything else remains the same. So there's no difference at all. And this code base is exactly the same as what we had on Gurm. There's no difference at all, right? So yeah, so that's basically because that Gurm, if you notice, if you've I was running into a lot of bugs today, and I've been running into a lot of bugs from a few days now, right? So I'm sure that after following for such a long time, you must have run into some bugs too, and they include it will stop working, the cursor will stop working, then you'll have to restart the terminal, you'll have to restart the whole container and all of those things. So while that I could do, I mean, I wouldn't prefer doing, but I could handle that if I was making the app on my own, right? But when I'm actually explaining what I want to do and it gets stuck somewhere in between, I actually lose the whole flow, I think. And that's why it might have been difficult to understand some concepts too. So for that, I'm switching back to my local environment. And you do not need to worry about that. You can choose to switch to this if you want, but you can also choose to stay on Goon and just face all those bugs and move along, right? And there's basically no difference with this. The browser will still be this, except I'll be using localhost. You will be using your Goon URL, which I think you've had enough practice with Goon by seeing me until now, so you can manage that yourself. And this is it. And the other thing is that we'll have the terminal. So the terminal is actually also the same. We have Nodemon running here. We have our MongoD running here, right? So nothing has changed from that. But the only thing is the ways I'll be doing this will be different now. The code will be same, but the places I'll do this will be different, right? So now let's start with the next change, which is basically some padding issue that I noticed after ending the previous video. That if you remember in the previous video, we had made a main.css file inside which we had given a padding of 60 pixels, 10 pixels, right? So that actually worked really good in this add post page, right? It was looking good enough. But as soon as I visited the home page, I noticed that padding has been applied here too. So to actually conquer that, what we need to do is we need to add a padding top to all the pages, but the side padding will be added only to this page, right? So what I'm going to do is in the main.css, I'm going to just do it to what we had before. Padding top 55 pixels, and then I'll refresh, and you can see this still works. The left and right padding is gone, but the above padding is great. And if we visit the home page, the Jumbotron is exactly where it should be, right? So the main.css is now fine. Now let's focus on fixing this side padding issue on this page, right? So I'll close this main.css. So now we need a separate style sheet for our new.ejs too, right? So inside the partials, not inside the partials, inside the public slash style sheets, right? In here, I'll make a new folder which will be called new file called new.css, right? And inside this, I'll do the initial check. I'll do h1 color green, right? And inside the new.ejs, I'll link this. Link rel is equal to style sheet. href is equal to slash style sheet slash new.css. If I refresh, I'm getting a yellow, a green h1, meaning my new.css has been connected successfully. So now what I can do is I can simply just select the body, right? And I can do padding 55 pixels, or I'll change this to 60 here. So I can apply that padding here, right? And you see that this becomes as we wanted it to be. And the home page is also really great. And the explore is not styled yet. We'll get to that. Alright, so these were the changes from the previous video that I wanted to make, right? All of that is done now. Great. So now the next thing. We need to like style this page, right? So for that, I'm going to move this into a Jumbotron, right? So let's open up our index.ejs file, right? So I'll make a div of Jumbotron, and I'll move everything inside of this, and I'll change this to explore blogify. I refresh, it becomes explore blogify. Great. And one more thing, the deflex thing, right? I'll do align items center and justify content center. And now if I refresh the page, this moves to the center. Great. So that's right. And now we need to like add we'll not change the height for this. We don't want this to look exactly like this page, right? We'll not change the height of this. We'll just put a background image. So I'll visit unsplash.com. Great. And I'll do explore. I'll search for explore and know what that gives me. All right, let's see how this looks. So I'll do copy image address. And all right, so for that, we'll actually need to have a separate CSS file for this. So I'll do link rel style sheet, and href will be, I don't know what I pasted there. Href will be slash style sheets slash, and we'll need to have a new file which we'll name index.css. I'm pretty sure we'll have to change the names of some of these, or like we'll not change the names, but we'll have to change the paths to some of these later on when we are adding new things, because you'll see why. But for now, we can work with this, right? Because if I start making the changes from now on, you'll not see the use of them, right? All right, so slash style sheet slash index.css will be linked to this, and now we'll make a new file which will be index.css, and that opens up. I'll do h1 like always, color green. I'll go to this, I'll refresh, color turns to green, meaning my CSS has been connected. Great. So now what I'll do is I'll select the Jumbotron. I'll do background image. Yeah, here it is, URL. And inside here, I'll paste my Unsplash URL. And rather than just visiting and then coming back and doing this, I'll do this right now because you've seen this enough times now. I think this will not be a problem. Background, repeat, no repeat. Background, size, cover. Refresh. So it actually is a really big image for that. So we don't exactly get what we were aiming for. But I think it still looks decent enough. Like, of course, we can't figure out that this is the image that we're talking about. But seeing this as a standalone background, I don't think this is a really big problem. Right. So that's great. Now let's add some styling to these things right here. We don't want them to be in a UL, right? All right. So first of all, what I'm aiming to do is I'm aiming to put this inside a container. Refresh, moves inside a container. Excellent. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'll keep the CSS open here. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'll not make this a UL, of course. And also remove this li. So for each item, what we'll do is we'll we'll have to do some custom stylings here, right? So we'll do a class outer, right? And inside that outer, we'll have everything we have here. And inside that outer, we'll first have our, let's say image, and we'll also have the sample image here. So I'll open up my home.ejs. I'll copy this image URL that we have for all the samples. I'll copy this. I'll move to the index.ejs back. And I'll do image. All right. Let's see how this looks. Of course, does not look really good. So let's try giving some classes to this. And let's see some bootstrap options for this, right? So we could actually use this horizontal card, right? This is what actually I was aiming for. So we don't have to style all of this by ourselves, right? So I'll remove this image. And first I'll paste this card in, right? So we have this. Let's keep this style for now. We'll see what this is doing later. So image source, we'll have to change the source to, I'll take the source from home, copy, back to index. So the source is this, great. And next is this, great. Card title, this is a wider card. So the card title will need to be item.title. I'll copy this from here. I'll paste this in here. And the content will be item.content. So this paragraph needs to be item.content. And we'll remove this last updated thing for now. Plus, we'll also remove this this thing. So let's see how that looks on our web page. All right, looks decent enough. So I think we could remove this, or we could like change this. I don't know. I'm actually trying things out here myself because I've not made this, of course. So I'll also do, so I'll select dot outer here. And what I'll do is I'll do margin auto. You'll have to inspect to see what we actually have to change the margin for. So if I go to outer, that's actually this whole thing. So we need to apply a margin auto to this card, right? And we'll have to remove the padding too. So we select the dot card mb3 dot mb3, right? I'll do dot. Do padding 0 for now. Let's see how that works out. All right, so I think this does look a little good. However, we could have this even wider. Excellent. So now this looks extremely good, I think, and we'll remove the max width. Okay, so now our explore page looks decent enough for now. I think we would get some innovative ideas on how to style this later on too. But for now, this looks decent enough. And the one thing that we could do is, we could do after this card body, we could add another button. We could add an A tag with classes of btn success. href will be slash blog slash item.id. Excellent. And the A will be read more. So it's not styled really well. Let's see if they have an option in Bootstrap for that, right? Do they have an option? So we'll have to like style this on our own. So, all right. So we'll do something like, this is a flexbox. If you remember, grid is already a flexbox. So we'll also add classes of align self and so yeah, so this is not deflex by default. This is the one that's deflex, right? So the row is deflex, so we can move these things around, not this, right? So align self end moves this to the correct place, and what we could also do is we could select the A tag right here. We could select the .btn and we could give it a margin of 10 pixels all around. So now this looks a little better, and I think this will look even better if we have a good amount of words here, right? This is looking a little vague because the amount of words in the description is actually quite low. But of course, that will not be the case when we are working with actual blogs, right? So then this will look really good. So now we can click on read more, and that takes us to our show page, which again isn't styled yet, right? So this is the fourth page that we need to style. But our explore is now really well styled. So now we have a well styled home page. Then we have an explore page, which is also well styled. Then we have an add post page, which is also styled. But the show page is not styled yet. So we'll actually do the show page later on. For now, we'll just let it be like it is, because that requires us to use like grids and cards and a lot of things. I have something good in mind. So anyway, that's all for basically the index page, and we can stop with the styling for now, right? So yeah, so basically that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.